Alright, hello everyone. Today we're going to have a look at Bitwig and how to sidechain. There are many ways to do it. At the moment I've just got a bunch of loops on the page here, or on the timeline, and we're just going to go just play it and have a listen. Right, so at the moment what you can hear is a big mess. Right, the kick is not defined, the bass line is really huge, everything else is getting... That's just a big mess, right? So what we want to do is define this a little bit more. Now the first thing you really need to do is actually EQ everything, but we're not here to EQ today. We're here to make it sound better without EQing. That's wrong. I know it sounds wrong. It is wrong. But what we're going to do is we're going to try and make this kick sound better. So the first one and the most obvious one is on the bass line. So actually just have a look at the parts. So we've got a kick. We've got a bass, big bass line, which is the main bass line. We've got the sub, we've got a snare, and a hi-hat, which is just dry, plain, no soul to it whatsoever, just straight. Right, so those are the parts we've got. Now, like I said before, what we should really do is EQ some things, but I'm not going to do that just yet. I don't think I'm going to actually even do it. So the big bass line is the main one, really. If you listen to that, the kick is just disappearing. All we can hear is bass line. So the first way to sidechain in Bitwig is to go to Bitwig device, go to dynamics, and go to the dynamics plugin. And on here we can actually select a device input. Now that's going to be a sidechain input. So in this instance we're going to choose kick, and we're going to choose post. Right. So at the moment it's going to do nothing. But it's taking the sidechain signal from the kick and pushing it through this compressor. So we turn up the ratio, pull down the threshold, and we've got something happening. But at the moment, you can see that it's actually still not quite clean enough because the attack is up too high. Turn that right down, and change the release a little bit. Now we get that pumping sound, which everyone loves. So the keys here really are, I mean, you can change the knee. All these things are to your taste. Like, all I want to show you is how to actually make this work. The compressor's not really working that hard. This is actually slamming, so it's really obvious that it's happening. Ratio is like way too high, but for a pumping effect, it's good. This is up to you. Taste is it's your taste. You make it how you want to sound. You make it sound how you want it to. So this here is just a way to get the bass, the kick drum coming through the bass line. So without it, the kick disappears again. Put it back on, the kick comes back. Alright, so that's one way to sidechain. So let's just have a listen to the whole thing. Take it off. Right, bring it back. So that makes that kick come through even more. We're still not done. What we can do now is we can actually copy this since we've set this up. So Control C or Command C on Mac, I guess. And we're going to bring it down to the bass line and put it there too. So now we've got the kick, the bass line, and the sub bass. That's probably way too much for the sub bass. It's not, you can hardly even hear it. I think I need to boost the sub a little bit more. Okay, let's do it a different way. Alright, let's get back to the sub bass. There we go, it's a little bit better. Now the kick's got a longer tail, so I'd probably do the release a bit longer with that, but anyway. Alright, that's better. It's still not great. I mean, we haven't EQ'd anything. I haven't done that on purpose. Right, so that is one way to do it. Now, you're probably better off, I mean, you can sidechain these separately, or you can group these basses together and then just do one sidechain over the top. So if I group that and remove these, put it directly on the subgroup. So it's actually called a subgroup. Subgroup. Right, that's actually not as good. I think it was better before, how we had it on separate individual tracks. It sounded better. Yeah, better. Okay, cool. Right, so that's one way of doing it. Now, another way of doing it would be to, if you don't actually have the Dynamics plugin, which I don't know why you wouldn't, but if you didn't have it, let's just get rid of it. Another way to do this is to, let's just delete those. You should have a tool plugin. So Bitwig utility tool. All right, so this here is now a volume knob. So if we right click on that and add automation and then go to here, there's the volume. So that's the tool volume. What we can do is if we go in and draw a bunch of things in here. If we do this, what we're doing is we're actually turning the volume down to 0, and then we can actually make our own little sidechain with a tool volume. And if you select all these by clicking and dragging, let's go in a bit closer actually. Where's the timeline? If we use the timeline thing, copy that, and no, that's not working. We've got to use the pointer. Okay, copy that and then paste those in. We should be able to sidechain the one. Yes. So just copy and pasting this in. Putting the cursor hopefully in the right place. And all the way to the end. This is kind of a bit fiddly though. This is one way you can do it. It's fine. It works. But it's hard to edit. Right. So as you can see down here, what we're doing is automating the volume. That's it. That's a simple sidechain. I don't like that way, but it's possible. So let's just undo that and actually just get rid of that. That's another way to sidechain. Now there is another cooler way to sidechain. This is my favorite. If you have access to the Bitwig EQ Plus, in here if you click on this little arrow anchor thing, click inside this and you go to audio sidechain. What we can do is if we click on this now, in the square box down here, we can select the device input, go to kick, post, and if we push play now, what we can see is this is our kick in this window down here, and we can set the kind of the EQ spectrum in here. So we can see that the main part of this kick is around about 107 hertz. So if we stop that and go over here and we click on this EQ, we can actually make one at about 111, 107, somewhere around about there. There's somewhere in the middle. And then if we click on this blue anchor arrow here and come down to this volume part where it says dB and click and drag that down, when we push play again, this EQ will now start to decrease the EQ value right here. Right, so it's ducking that EQ around 111 hertz, but it's still not working quite right yet. We've got the rise in the wrong place, so if we put the rise all the way down, that now comes on straight away, and the fall we need to adjust that to how we want, and if we want we can increase it. That's with it off. Turn it back on. Now the problem with this is that it's actually only EQing the bass in one place, so it is ducking, but it's still not very clear. So what we need to look at on our kick is where else is it trying to punch through. So we've got something around about, I don't know, 400, and probably should do something around about 1K as well. So if we do another EQ here, maybe about 400, yep, and one around about 1 kilohertz. Or we could actually do one in the middle, which is probably going to be better. Right, and then do the same thing, click on the arrow and then drag that dB down. We need to tighten the Q on this one though. Probably also on the 1. So turn that off. Right, so that's actually cutting through the mix now. Only slightly though, right? So it's probably better to actually also throw on a dynamics compressor as well, just to really smash it. Kick, post, turn up the ratio, drop the threshold, drop the attack. Alright, so that kind of works, right? Why would you want to do a sidechain like this? In some cases your kick may fit really well, but you want to duck the frequency just that little bit and keep the bass sound in your mix. It's just basically, it's like a multi-band compression effect, really, to be fair. See, with it out, the kick is still punching through, but with this EQ turned on, you can actually hear the kick more defined. Alright, so that's another way to sidechain. Yeah, so that's pretty much covering the basics, I guess. So what would I do to fix this? Well, let's say this was my track, which it isn't, it's just samples. I would go in here and do a few things, so let's do that. The kick is pretty much okay. I kind of EQ'd there a little bit. The bass line, let's actually just delete all this stuff. So like I was doing this from scratch. The bass line, I'll first throw an EQ on it. I'd also look at the sub. So the sub is important. So I would low pass the sub. It's a re-sub, so really don't want to cut too much of that 500 hertz out. Right, the low end's pretty clean actually. On this bass line here, it's actually quite large. So I would cut this at a minimum of 140. So that cleans up those two bass lines, and then with the kick in. So we can't hear our kick because we need to sidechain it. So let's see, how would I sidechain this? I would actually use a dynamics plugin for this bass line, just because it's so big, and I want the whole kick to come through. So that's dynamics, check, and then on here I'd go to the kick. You might have noticed that I've got a sidechain channel up here. This is for sidechaining my music. I use it as a different way. So I've got like these short signals coming through, but I'm not using that today. So I will choose kick. This is this kick. I need to choose post. Crank up that ratio. Drop the threshold. Drop the attack. Right, so that's kind of okay. I've got headphones on at the moment, so it's a bit hard to hear, so that's good enough. What we've got then is the kick coming through pretty clean. Right, so I'm going to copy this dynamics plugin from the main bass line to the sub. I'm going to drop the threshold on this one. If I bring the threshold down more, I get more of a pump sound. And tighten up that knee. Alright, that's good. Now the hi-hats. Yeah, the hi-hat is probably needs a sidechain on it. And I'd only do this just for a flavor, like to be, to make it kind of sound different. I don't need to do this, but I'm going to. I just want to see what it sounds like. All it's doing is ducking that hi-hat on the kick, and that kind of sounds nice. And it also gives a hi-hat bit of movement. Anyway, so that's pretty much, I could keep going on and playing for hours and hours and hours, but I think that'll do for today. That is how to sidechain in Bitwig. Yeah, so have a go. I really like this though, this method. I'm going to do this one more time. So audio sidechain. And select the kick, because I feel like it needs to be EQ'd more here in this area. So if I narrow that range in there, so it's about 111 Hertz. And you can see right here, this is where this bass line is punching through quite a bit into the kick. So if we do this, should make more room. Yeah, that's a bit better. So just for that bass line there, that sidechaining the EQ is really good. Right here, this is where the kick is. Alright, now I know it's a pretty grating sound. I'm sorry I had to put you through that, but hopefully you learned something with Bitwig and how to sidechain and even EQ the bass line and kick together. It's all in one. But there we go, so that's it.